You can't beat this layout, gents." Bill Gregg glanced once about him and nodded. "You come up from the south, maybe?" asked the proprietor, lingering at the door. "West," said Bill Gregg curtly. "You don't say? Then you boys must be used to your toddy at night, eh?" "It's tolerable dry country out there," said Ronicky without enthusiasm. "All the more reason you need some liquor to moisten it up. Wait till I get you a bottle of rye I got handy." And he disappeared in spite of their protests. "I ain't a drinkin' man," said Gregg, "and I know you ain't, but it's sure insulting to turn down a drink in these days." Ronicky nodded, and presently the host returned with two glasses, rattling against a tall bottle on a tray. "Say when," he said, filling the glasses and keeping on, in spite of their protest, until each glass was full. "I guess it looks pretty good to you to see the stuff again," he said, stepping back and rubbing his hands like one warmed by the consciousness of a good deed. "It ain't very plentiful round here." "Well," Gregg said, swinging up his glass, "here's in your eye, Ronicky, and here's to you, sir." "Wait," replied Ronicky. "Hold on a minute, Bill." "Looks to me like you ain't drinkin'," he said to the proprietor. The fat man waved the suggestion aside. "Never touch it," he assured them. "Used to indulge a little in light wines and beers, when the country was wet, but when it went dry the stuff didn't mean enough to me to make it worth while dodging the law. I managed to keep a little of it around for friends and men out of a dry country. But we got a funny habit out in our country. We can't no ways drink unless the gent that's setting them out takes something himself. It ain't done that way in our part of the land," said Ronicky. "It ain't?" "Never." "Come, come, that's a good joke, but even if I can't be with you boys, drink hearty." Ronicky Doone shook his head. "No joke at all," he said firmly. "Matter of politeness that a lot of gents are terrible hard set on out where we come from." "Why, Ronicky," protested Bill, "ain't you making it a little strong? For my part I've drunk 20 times without having the gent that set 'em up touch a thing. I reckon I can do it again. Here's how." "Wait," declared Ronicky Doone. And there was a little jarring ring in his voice that arrested the hand of Bill Gregg in the act of raising the glass. Ronicky crossed the room quickly, took a glass from the washstand, and returning to the center table, poured a liberal drink of whiskey into it. "I don't know about my friend," he went on almost sternly to the bewildered hotel keeper. "I don't know about him, but some gents feel so strong about not drinkin' alone that they'd sooner fight. Well, sir, I'm one of that kind. So I say, there's your liquor. Get rid of it." The fat man reached the center of the table and propped himself against it, gasping. His whole body seemed to be wilting, as though in a terrible heat. "I don't know," he murmured. "I don't know what's got into you fellers. I tell you I never drink." "You lie, you fat fool!" retorted Ronicky. "Didn't I smell your breath?" Bill Gregg dropped his own glass to the table and hurriedly came to confront his host by the side of Ronicky. "Breathe?" he asked the fat man hurriedly, still gasping more and more heavily for air. I may have taken a small tonic after dinner. In fact, I think I did. That's all, nothing more. I assure you I have to be a sober man in my work." "You got to make an exception this evening," said Ronicky, more fiercely than ever. "I ought to make you drink all 3 drinks for being so slow about drinking one." "3 drinks!" exclaimed the fat man, trembling violently. It would kill me." "I think it would," said Ronicky. "I swear I think it would. And maybe even one will be sort of a shock, eh?" He commanded suddenly: "Drink! Drink that glass and clean out the last drop of it, or we'll tie you and pry your mouth open and pour the whole bottle down your throat. You understand?" A feeble moan came from the throat of the hotel keeper. He cast one frantic glance toward the door, and a still more frantic appeal centered on Ronicky Doone, but the face of the latter was as cold as stone. "Then take your own glasses, boys," he said, striving to smile as he picked up his own drink. "You drink first, and you drink alone," declared Ronicky. "Now!" The movement of his hand was as ominous as if he had whipped out a revolver. The fat man tossed off the glass of whiskey and then stood with a pudgy hand pressed against his breast and the upward glance of one who awaits a calamity. Under the astonished eyes of Bill Gregg he turned pale, a sickly greenish pallor. His eyes rolled. and his hand on the table shook and the arm that supported him sagged. "Open the window," he said. "The air there ain't no air. I'm choking and " "Get him some water," cried Bill Gregg, "whilst I open the window." "Stay where you are, Bill." "He looks like he's dying." "Then he's killed himself." "Gents," began the fat man feebly and made a short step toward them. The step was incomplete. In the middle of it he wavered, put out his arms and slumped upon his side on the floor. Bill Gregg cried out softly in astonishment and horror, but Ronicky Doone knelt calmly beside the fallen bulk and felt the beating of his heart. "He ain't dead," he said quietly, "but he'll be tolerable sick for a while. Now come along with me." "But what's all this mean?" asked Bill Gregg in a whisper, as he picked up his suit case and hurried after Ronicky. "Doped booze," said Ronicky curtly. They hurried down the stairs and came out onto the dark street. Then Ronicky Doone dropped his suit case and dived into the dark nook beside the entrance. There was a brief struggle. He came out again, pushing a sulking figure before him, with the man's arm twisted behind his back. "Take off this gent's hat, will you?" asked Ronicky. Bill Gregg obeyed, too dumb with astonishment to think. "It's the taxi driver!" he exclaimed. "I thought so," muttered Ronicky. "The skunk came back here to wait till we were fixed right now. What'll we do with him?" "I begin to see what's coming off," said Bill Gregg, frowning into the white, scowling face of the taxi driver. The man was like a rat, but in spite of his fear he did not make a sound. "Over there," said Bill Gregg, nodding toward a flight of cellar stairs. They caught the man between them, rushed him to the stairs and flung him headlong down. There was a crashing fall, groans, and then silence. "He'll have a broken bone or two, maybe," said Ronicky, peering calmly into the darkness, "but he'll live to trap somebody else, curse him." And picking up their suit cases again, they started to retrace their steps. Chapter 7